Interesting movie that was in the cinemas, of course, was National Treasure. And it was an interesting movie about the seeking of all the wealth that had been accumulated from one nation conquering another nation and eventually accumulated supposedly and hidden, by the, well, we'll just put it by the entrepreneurs of wealth that were portrayed in the movie. And therefore it seemed to be some secret treasure. But interestingly, when you really look at how things work, this national treasure has a lot to do with the meaning of words and where treasure would show up. We know that scripture said, do not store up treasures on earth. It's talking about don't even get mixed up in that craziness because it has no value. The reality is in the world of sin and death, no one man can basically do anything greater than another man because he leaves as he came in as naked. So therefore, this idea of passing treasures, as the Egyptians tried to do, thinking they were going to go into another life with those treasures, and in fact they were just dug up and exploited anyways, and all their treasures that they had buried with themselves, of course, in the reality went nowhere other than into the hands of pilferers. So national treasure, it's interesting this word national because it comes up in the law. So we're going to go to national. I'm just reading you out of the Canadian Law Dictionary. Now, this is more than not, I'm going to say that you're not going to run into too much differences. The meanings more than not are run by the same gambit of legal liars, and they put these books together for these definitions because of how they operate. The snakes are all in one little pool. So when we go to the word national, it says an individual possessing the nationality of a particular country. So if you call yourself Canadian, you call yourself Australian, you call yourself an American, well, you just said that you belong to them and you're their property. Okay, so remember that has nothing to do with God, so don't bring in your Christian name into that. The minute you said that, or you mention one of these nations, you're no longer what you think you are. You may want to have a belief in that, but that belief is controlled by this nation that you now have become a legal participant in. We go to the next definition, or the next rendering for this. It states, any legal person. Now we get into legal person now. So that's a national. Any legal person, partnership and association, deriving its status as such from the law in force in a state. So if you belong to the legal state, then you become a legal national of that state. And then it says a nationwide sports tournament or competition. Well, let's bring a lot of entertainment and amusement from the Roman side now. But overall, that's what a national is. So when we deal with national treasure, we're dealing in the legal sense, the make-believe of the accumulation of possessions seems to have nothing to do with spirituality, but it has a lot to do with participating in that legal illusion. So when we're going to go now, we're going to look at the word treasure. And these are simple ways you can do the same research. There's nothing I'm doing here that's that special. And like I'm telling you, if you really understood the method that I've used over the years to research, I'm just basically like a guy sitting there going, I think I better wipe the slate clean and get starting from scratch and look into the words and find out what they really mean by going in to do the research. If you're going to walk out there blindly and say, oh, I don't like reading and I don't like this and I don't like that and I want it spoon-fed, well, you could get caught on somebody's blind faith delusion of false knowledge. And therefore, that's how you get led by these religious who claim that they represent Jesus Christ, of which will claim out, Lord, Lord, didn't I do this in your name? And Jesus will say to them, get away from me, you workers of lawlessness. I don't even know you. But they'll claim that they're actually representing him, as would the Pope, which is a funny subject in itself. So when we look at the word treasure, it leads actually to the word thesaurus. And interesting, the word thesaurus means reptile or lizard. I think you're kind of getting the meaning what's going on, because in a thesaurus, it contains unique situations of opposites. you'll have a word that we call a synonym, and then you'll have an antonym to that same word. So they call this a treasure. We're going to read the dictionary just to get to the gist of this, to show you that we're not dealing with just the words I'm saying. We're going actually to the root of where the rule of diction begins, which is going to be in a dictionary. So we're going to go to the word treasure, and it says thesaurus in Latin, which means the reptile, the serpent. We know that's one of the part of the reptile family. So it goes further. It says accumulated or stored wealth, especially in the form of money, precious metals, jewels, etc. Any person or thing considered very valuable. Well, I can guarantee you that when your parents started off the illusion with the state and put in two opposites that don't belong to create what could look like a confusion, they eventually created a confused little certificate that actually is merged or made to look like it merged truth, your God-given name, with a legal state surname title. Therefore, this, on many of the documents that are considered birth certificates, some of them being in Canada, have actually stamped the back of them for treasury use only. Not for your use, for treasury use only. They have access to the treasure trove, those who control such a system and create the issuance of these things. So it takes two things to be an opposite that would represent what we call a thesaurus. And therefore it becomes where they store the wealth, the money. And they need you to believe that you have basically entitlement to it to register everything in that illusion. So when we're looking at these words, and I'm saying you can go through, Black's Law dictionaries, look up the word treasure, treasure trove, all these words that are related to this, because we go on and on and on. But it definitely leads to fiction talk, which deals with speaking with a forked tongue, a branch tongue. Both truth and fiction show up in the world of the reptile, the thesaurus. And therefore it becomes a treasure because you're storing up everything inside a legal house of man. It's not a spiritual treasure, therefore you're wasting your time because it's not yours.